Hello everyone, and welcome to the Reddit Railway. My name is Victor, and I'll be your driver. Today's destination is r/am I the arsehole, so all aboard! A little background. My first husband, Michael, and I were college sweethearts. We got married not long after graduation, and I thought I would be with him for the rest of my life. Unfortunately, we were only married for a couple of months before Michael passed away suddenly. It was one of the worst times in my life, and I never thought that I would fall in love again, much less remarry and have a family. I remained very close with Michael's mum, my Mill, and she was very supportive when I eventually started dating again. Not long after I met my current husband, John, I took him to her house so that they could meet. She was so excited to meet him, and I remember going to the bathroom and crying tears of relief that she wasn't angry at me for moving on. When John and I got married, she was so happy for me. On my wedding day, she took me aside and told me that she knew Michael was happy for me too. It meant so much to me to hear her say that. Earlier this year, John and I found out that we're pregnant. At first, Mill was ecstatic, making jokes about being a bonus grandma and asking to help plan the gender reveal party and baby shower. But when the subject of names came up, she was shocked that we weren't planning to name the baby after Michael. I explained to her that if it was a boy, we were going to name him after John's father. I could tell she wasn't happy, but she seemed to accept it. Things took a turn for the worst after my 20-week ultrasound when we found out that I was carrying twin boys. When I told her the news, she flat out told me that I had to name one of the babies after Michael or she would never forgive me. When I told her that we weren't going to do that, she absolutely flipped, saying that I was betraying the memory of her son. I tried to make her understand that as much as I love and miss Michael, that chapter of my life is over, and I feel it's disrespectful to John to insist on naming one of his children after another man. At first, John said that he would be fine with it if it was what I wanted, but eventually he admitted that the idea made him uncomfortable. I never want to make my Mill think that I've forgotten Michael, or that he wasn't important to me, but I don't want to name one of my children after him either. And honestly, I don't think he would have wanted me to. There are better ways of remembering him than giving his name to a child that will never have any real connection to him. I tried explaining this to Mill, but she just wouldn't hear it. She told me that she would never speak to me again if I didn't name one of the babies after her son. She's been a really important part of my life, and I don't want to lose her. But at the same time, I feel like she's giving me an unfair ultimatum. Am I the arsehole? Not the arsehole, not in the slightest. It is an unfair ultimatum. You have every right to name your child whatever you want. Your Mill, or rather former Mill, is being completely ridiculous. Sounds like she hasn't come to terms with Michael's passing. If that's the case, that's her problem. She shouldn't take it out on you. Don't cave, OP. Name your kids whatever you want. Now, OP does have a couple of updates to this post, so let's see what happened. I just want to address a few things I saw in the comments. A lot of you wanted clarification as to how long Michael has been gone. It will be 10 years this October. A lot of you also wondered why I'm still so close with his mother after so long. I probably should have included this in the original post for context, but there are a couple of reasons for this. Michael was an only child, and his father was never in the picture, and she has virtually no other family left besides a handful of cousins who live across the country. Over the years, she's been a steadfast supporter, always the first to encourage me to live my life and be happy. Funnily enough, I might not have met John if it wasn't for her. A friend of mine had set me up with him on a blind date, and I almost backed out. The only reason I didn't was because my ex Mill convinced me to go. Honestly, she is the last person I ever would have expected this from, which is why I found it so hard to deal with. A lot of you have said that this is probably her being forced to finally deal with a lot of unprocessed grief, and I think that's probably true. I think at some point I stopped thinking of her as my Mill and started thinking of her as a friend. I thought that she'd come to think of me in the same way, but now I'm realizing that at least a part of her still sees me as Michael's wife. I am hopeful that we will find a way to work it out, but I am prepared to let her go if it comes to that, even though it would make me terribly sad. To those of you who said I should start putting up some boundaries with her, you're probably right. I honestly thought all of the bonus grandma jokes were harmless at first, but now I've started to think otherwise. I don't want to make any rash decisions yet until we've both had a chance to calm down, but as things stand, she has a lot of work to do in the way of regaining my trust. As to where I stand on the name issue, I am not going to name either of my children after Michael. For those of you who are worried I might cave on the issue, don't be. It was never an option. I briefly considered doing something with the middle name, but ultimately decided against it. I don't want to burden either of my children by naming them after a man they will never have any connection to. As to how we honor Michael's memory, every year John and I go to visit his grave on his birthday. It was actually John who started the tradition the year we got engaged, and we haven't missed a year since. Maybe someday when they're old enough, we'll take the boys. I don't know how exactly, but I'm sure I'll find a way to explain to them who Michael was and what he meant to me. For those of you who asked if this was having a negative impact on my marriage, the answer is no. John has been my rock through the entire pregnancy, and his only concern during this ordeal has been my emotional well-being. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that if I wanted to name one of these babies after Michael, he would let me and never say a word about it, no matter how much it hurt him. Which makes me even more determined to not cave on the issue, because I refuse to repay his selflessness with selfishness. As to where things stand with my ex Mill and I, my sister-in-law, brother's wife, is good friends with her, so right now she's acting as a sort of go-between. She says that she thinks ex Mill is having a long overdue emotional breakdown. We both agree that she has avoided fully processing her grief, and now it's all coming to a boiling point. She's pushing hard to get her to see a therapist, and I'm hopeful that we can salvage at least some of our relationship, but if not, I'll find a way to live with it. And finally, to the handful of commenters who insinuate that I'm still in love with Michael and that I'm not being fair to John, let me just say that until you've been in my shoes, you won't understand. Michael and I were very young when we got married. I loved him very much, and he will always, always have a place in my heart. But John is absolutely the love of my life. It took me years of therapy, but I don't feel guilty about it anymore. And you shouldn't. It's entirely up to you how you want to proceed in the wake of losing a loved one. My condolences, by the way. John sounds like a wonderful man. It takes a special kind of bloke to be so supportive to someone in your situation. I'm glad you decided to not name your kids after Michael. A pity Mill is having a breakdown, but as you say, it's overdue. They're never pretty, but sometimes necessary. We'll now move on to the final update, which was posted a month after this one. Since I made this post, it has come to light that ex-Mill has a serious problem with alcohol. I never realized this before because apparently she was very good at hiding it. Also, I've been told that while she has been nothing but supportive and kind to my face, she has said some very unkind comments about me and John behind our backs. She's even told some people that I cheated on Michael with John, even though I didn't even meet him until several years after Michael died. We went no contact 2 weeks ago, and it makes me very sad because Michael adored his mother, and it would break his heart to see her like this. As awful as she's been to me lately, I know it's just because she's in pain. Still, I know he would understand why I've decided to cut her out of my life. I truly hope that one day she'll heal and we can find a way to be friends again. So, Mill is a two-faced pisspot. That's certainly a twist. And you say Michael would be heartbroken? I have to ask, would he? If Mill was so good at hiding her problem, then maybe it predates his passing. I've heard a lot of stories about children who were raised by alcoholic parents. A lot of the time, they still love them despite this issue. I'll never understand that, but I don't know anything about the psychology behind it. However, it doesn't really matter when her drinking started. What matters is her present behavior, which is disgusting. Slandering you like that. Remain no contact, OP. It'll hurt, but cutting out toxic people is always a good idea. You'll be better off for it. Best wishes, OP, to you and your family. Anyway, we've come to the end of our journey. Thank you for traveling on the Reddit Railway, and thank you all so much for 5,000 subscribers. We hope to see you again soon.